Good morning, everyone. This is Arthur and David here at Deltaee. Welcome to this customer energy and data webinar. Today, we're going to talk about customer engagement through energy insight tools. So something we have been looking at for the last few months, and that's quite an exciting topic in the energy industry. So we have published a study recently on this, and we would like to share some of the findings with you. We have been reviewing lots of what's happening across Europe. Actually, we have interviewed lots of the energy suppliers who are offering these solutions, some that are not offering solutions like this. And we have learned quite a few things which we are going to talk about today. And one of the most fascinating company in this space is obviously Eneco. And we will have our guest speaker, Taco Invelt, who just left Eneco, but who worked 7 years in the smart energy part of QB. Hi, Taco, can you hear us well?
Yes, I can hear you very fine. This is Taco. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Taco. Thanks for joining us. And so my name is Arthur. You can see me on the left-hand side of the screen here. And I'm joined with my colleague, David.
Hello, everybody. I work at Deltaee running the customer data analytics research service, and this webinar is based on this.
Thanks, David. So David just recently started and will lead the service. He has done most of the research around here. I think, David, before that you worked for a few years at British Gas running the customer insight team.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I worked at Centrica looking after the sort of consumer insights, particularly looking after the product development side of the insights, so helping the teams there with their product development process.
So quite relevant for this sort of topic, actually. Before we start, I just want to talk about some of the technicalities. The webinar will be around 40-45 minutes, so we really appreciate if you take some time to listen to us, but we don't want to take too much of your time. We are recording it, so this will be made available on YouTube afterwards, and we will share the link with you. You can email us after the webinar to get the slides if you want. You can ask questions to us, to Taco, either via email afterwards or through the question button that's available on the software. And of course, if you want to discuss this with us afterwards, we are going to be at the European Utility Week in Amsterdam next week, and we'll be available the 3 days there. David is even speaking at this on the second day, again about customer engagement in the digital economy. This will be at 4:40 on Wednesday, I think.
That's right, yeah.
So in terms of how we will run this webinar, so this is the introduction part. The topics we are going to cover are what we found out from this study. So we'll provide a bit of a state of the energy insight proposition market. We'll discuss with Taco about his experience in Eneco and QB and what he has learned. We'll talk about the impact on customers and how the energy insight propositions have helped customers or not. And it will give some early advice on how to build propositions to help you with customer engagement. But before we start, just a quick word around Deltaee. So I can see from the 50 plus people who are currently listening, probably most of you know us quite well. Just a small word to remind you that we are a mixed business around consulting and subscription services. And our mission is to help companies navigate through the transformation of the energy system. One of the transformation is actually around the digitalization of this energy system. We have built subscription services around the connect to the home. Now we're talking about this particular service, the customer data analytics service. And maybe in the future, we'll explore other topics like blockchain, for example. So again, to remind you, if you want to ask questions, there is this little button in the software. We are monitoring this as we speak. So if questions come in, we will interrupt the webinar and hear the questions and try to answer them as best as we can. So I will hand over to David now to talk about the main part of the report.
Hello, everyone. We're going to start off by talking through. We're going to start off by talking through the state of the energy insight propositions market. By that, we're talking about the tools that help customers understand and act on energy consumption data. Generally speaking, energy insight propositions are available in most Western European markets, and it's an evolving market, but still the functionality is at a general level fairly basic. So there's still plenty of time for new entrants to come into the market and catch up and offer compelling products to customers. Although most functionality is still fairly basic, there are some more sophisticated examples out there, like consumption forecasting, consumption comparison with similar homes to the ones you're in, tailored energy efficiency tips, companies like Essence doing those sorts of things, and budgeting features in terms of alerts when consumption is reaching a particular high point. Fortum is an example of that, or links to smart thermostats to actually adjust your the settings and temperatures. EDF's SOE, for instance, has that offer. Disaggregation of appliances is a big topic, and a lot of people are looking into this. A lot of those are still estimates at this stage, but there are some sort of actual disaggregation data coming through from load signature recognition or smart plugs. And then sort of 2-3 other areas here, like solar PV generation monitoring, battery storage status, an example there from AGL in Australia, and electric vehicle consumption monitoring, although a niche product right now. Clearly in a few years' time, that might well be a much bigger proposition. So EDP is an example of somebody that's looking at that at the moment. So where the market's headed at the moment, investment in energy insight tools feels to us that it's now reached a tipping point. It's been invested in for a number of years for some companies. It's been in Western European markets now, and quite a few suppliers are offering them, usually about 2 to 3 per key territory. And on the right hand side, you can see a chart here to show the correlation between the sophistication of energy insight products and the customers actually with access and using them. So most of the companies here sit between those diagonal lines. There are 1 or 2 so outliers, of course, British Gas being one of them, which has a high number of customers. That's because of the online interactive tool that's available to everybody there with online account management, whether or not you have a smart meter. So there's no need to download an app, for instance, which explains why I have a high number of customers relative to the sophistication of tool. Engie in Belgium, on the bottom sort of right-hand side, is another example of an outlier. This is because the smart meter rollout in Belgium is at trial phase currently, and also Engie tool there is actually part of a paid-for bundle, of course, that would then limit customer take-up as well.
Well, it's quite interesting, actually, as you say, David, with companies, the big corporations like Engie or EDF. It's not necessarily the same offering they have in every country. And each individual country business unit is trying to do different things and experiment different things. So while Engie in France has its own offering with its own sub-metering systems and its own way to monetize this, the Belgian part of the business decided to go with the Eneco QB platform because it felt like it met the needs of people who didn't have smart meters. So that's quite interesting to see the trends coming up in these big utilities.
That's right, yes. And Eneco is here as a sort of a market leader in a way, which is why we're so thrilled to have Taco on the line for us as well to talk through his reflections. So to introduce Taco, he's been really the driving force behind Toon at Eneco and QB. He started off at Eneco and then set up the partnership there with QB 7 years ago. And has really sort of led the team there that have brought out Toon and developed that over the subsequent years, both from the Eneco side and then moving over to QB as well. So I'd like to welcome Taco onto the line to give some of his reflections. You might like to ask some questions or Taco to hear from his experiences. So Taco, hi to start with. Are you on the line?
Yes, hi. David, good to see you.
Hi, Taco. To start with, it would be great if you could sort of paint a picture of of Eneco and QB in terms of the setup there, who the reporting lines, the size of the team, and what you were tasked with. What consumer problems and customer problems are we actually trying to solve for?
Yeah, maybe it's good to do a short introduction for the people that do not know the QB and Eneco relation. QB is the company that has developed the smart thermostat product that is being sold by Eneco to its customers, and also by other utilities throughout Europe. Currently around 150 people work at QB, and it's based in Amsterdam, and I've been working there until recently, till the 1st of September. QB makes a smart thermostat product, and for end users it's a great product that heats your home and you can control remotely. And one of the key USPs of the smart thermostat product is that it also provides insight in both gas and electricity consumption. And for utilities, it's a strategy and it's a platform to develop a stronger relationship with their end users, and also a platform to collect data and to develop insights, new insights on users and also on energy usage and demand. And the key challenge that I've been working on in the last 2 years has been how to translate that capability of that platform and using that data and to transform that into meaningful new insight features. And in order to do that, we've set up a smart energy program that I've run the last 2 years to develop both the organization and technology. And we've been focusing basically on 2 customer problems. So initially, obviously, like everybody's doing, QB and Eneco have been displaying data in graphs, right? Actual historic consumption, comparison functions. But then we got customer feedback that everybody liked the insights because they got the feeling that it gave them control over their energy consumption. But very early on, we recognized that people want to have more. So I've got this insight, but now what? What can I do about it? So we've learned that it was not enough to just display data, but we needed to learn how to create value by translating data into tailor-made personal and actionable insights and advice. And that's what we've been working on for the last 2 years to solve 2 problems. One is, can we tell users if they actually waste energy and what they can do about it? And the second is, can we tell users if their boiler needs attention, either for maintenance, repair, or performance?
It's actually, yeah, we just had a question coming in from someone from the audience asking for what actually Energy Insight tool means, very, very briefly. I think you just answered the question quite well. It can mean either providing some information to the customer about what actually is your energy consumption, but as Taco just explained, it's what actions can you take from that, and when can you do to reduce your energy consumption if you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks, Taco. Talking through that sort of journey. So, what sort of setbacks did you and your team sort of encounter over the years you were overseeing that team, and how did you get around them?
I think one of the earliest setbacks or complexities or challenges that we encountered was the complexity of the data. Discussions around data, not only within QB but also between QB and the utility. Questions like who owns the data, how to address privacy concerns, how to deal with it, how to collect data and use data to create value without infringing the privacy concerns of end users. I think that was one of the first complexities that we needed to solve. And to solve that took us a lot of time to develop a new policy, new data processing policies, and also to adjust the privacy policies with end users. So how can you then speed up the development without having to wait before all those discussions, because they took a year at the end. And to solve that problem, we set up an innovation program in which we invited users to share their data, and in return they would get prototypes of new features and services that they could try out first. And that really helped us speed up the development.
Okay. Thank you. We've got a sort of question coming through about advice that you would give to energy suppliers either starting out or perhaps not quite far as advanced on their journey. So, what sort of tips would you like to give them?
I think one of the key things that you have to realize is why are you developing energy insights? Is that A, to develop a stronger customer relationship, or B, to create revenues from new services? I think the focus has been a lot on creating new revenues. I think the revenues at the end of the day will be the result of developing a stronger and more meaningful relation. So I think it's very important to take customer relationship KPIs in your business case from the start. And the second advice, I think you have to understand that you need to learn a lot of stuff. So you need to create an environment, for example, an innovation program with a lot of flexibility to learn how to collect data, how to develop analytics, how to develop applications to create that value.
That's actually quite interesting what you say about the KPIs that you mentioned, because we often get asked the questions, yeah, data and customers is nice, but how do we make money out of that? And and where do I justify the investment in that? And we can see that some of the big utilities are not investing enough to create enough value from customer insights. So how did Eneco think about the return on investment and the money problem that this brought?
I think that what Eneco realized early on is that money is the result of doing a lot of things good for your end user. So it's money is at the end the result of understanding your customer better than other companies in the market, and also servicing that customer better. And I think Eneco has really fully recognized that you need to develop a stronger customer relationship. And so traditionally a customer contact will cost a utility money. And so they try to reduce the amount of customer contacts from a budget perspective. But you need to, if you want to stay alive in the future, you need to understand that customer and you need to build meaningful contacts. And I think that is where a smart thermostat or insights tools is a great platform to do so.
Great, thanks, Saka. We had one other question come through actually, because of your time both at the Eneco side and at QB. Be interesting to see your perspective about how to get the best out of a relationship, between an energy supplier and a solutions provider.
That's a balancing act. It's a very good question. It is bringing the best of both worlds together. I think a utility has, a great customer base. They have the financial means to do things in a big way, impactful, and a solution provider has the flexibility to really move quickly forward and develop exciting new products and services. So they can really help out each other in bringing the scale to the solutions and providing solutions to the utility. But in order to do that, they need to find a mutual beneficial business model. And they have to respect that the cultures of both companies are completely different. And that's something that you need to solve with leadership and I think with good communication skills.
All right, thanks, Taco. We'll come back to you in a few minutes for probably more questions that we are recording now. Just would like to ask the first poll of this webinar. And if you let me activate the poll, we want to ask you, to all the audience, what you think the number will be in 5 years in terms of how many Western European energy suppliers will be offering such energy insight proposition. So if you just want to click on one of the choices, if you think it will be a few of them under 20% offering these solutions, or even 80% or more, It might become mainstream at some point. It will be really interesting to see actually what will the trends be in this market. So we'll give you another 5-6 seconds or so to vote, and almost everyone has voted so far. I think the results are quite clear that majority of the energy suppliers will have a solution in the market. So 1, 2, 3 more seconds, and that's it. I will close the poll. So here are the results from what we can see. So a majority of you, the energy industry experts, think that roughly 60 to 80% of the energy suppliers in Western Europe will be offering the solution. So it's quite interesting. And a very few number of you think that there will be just a few ones offering it. So it shows that there will be a trend in the market, and that this is where the market is moving. A follow-up poll that I'd like to ask you is actually, how many customers do you think will be using these energy insights tools in Europe in 5 years' time? So again, is it under 20%? Is it 80% plus? Or how many of the customers you think will have access to this and will want to use it effectively? And again, the trends show the opposite, actually. So far, we have 65% of the votes done. A few more seconds to give you the chance to vote. And I will close the poll just now. And Charlotte, back with you. So very, very interestingly, the energy experts don't think actually this will become, let's call it, a very large majority of the market. So there will be a market for this, obviously. You think between 20 and 60% of the people will have access to this and will want to use it. But obviously not everyone will want to use that. And there could be a few reasons to that. There could be some people who really don't care about energy, some people who can't be bothered even to think about energy and save energy, and some people who have too much money to spend on that. But quite interesting to see, actually. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to the continuity of the webinar, David.
Yeah, thank you, Arthur. Yeah, no, so the poll very interesting actually, as we're now moving on to the impact on the customer experience and business metrics of these energy insight tools. Starting off with the impact on customer experience. Customer billing is a major source of frustration for customers. I mean, it has been for a long time, and it impacts sort of negatively on trust of energy suppliers. We see energy insight tools as really helping to build a more positive relationship between the customer and supplier. It gives greater transparency and establishes the link between energy consumption and the bill much more clearly. It allows much more informed decision making on the behalf of customers, and allows them greater control to actually act on that insight. So you can see here some quotes that have come from customers of various sort of European energy suppliers to show that there is definitely some transformation going on of customer relationships, and we have seen some early evidence of links to higher NPS and customer satisfaction from utilities that are offering this. It's still fairly early days, but it feels like there is momentum in this place.
Yeah, there is an interesting question coming up. What is the view about non-utility companies offering energy insights? For example, in the UK market, that person says that this will be open to third parties. And it's a very good question, actually. So will non-energy players be getting the customer relationship? And the answer might be yes, because if you find a way to get into the customer's home, find a cheap way to provide customer insights, energy insights, then you might be able to steal the customer relationship, and that's a threat for utilities. If you want to get better engagement, get a positive engagement with your customers, it starts with engagement. So if you have this data available from smart meter or from other technologies, it's probably the best thing to actually do something about it before someone else does it. Today, most of the non-utility players are starting to offer products like electricity disaggregation, so quite not expensive, but quite not free tools for customers. So the market is growing. It's relatively small today and niche, but we can see these devices becoming cheaper and cheaper, and it's possible that that these companies will take over the relationship at some point. So it's definitely another reason for utilities to get involved in this.
Thanks. So moving on to the commercial value that companies can start to see or expect from energy insight tools. There's a business model that we're looking at here, starting really with engaged customers, as we saw the customer impact, customers who are engaged and happy, and the knock-on effect that is going to have on some of the business metrics. Firstly, there'll be a reduced cost to serve. Greater engagement means greater understanding of their bills, less direct contact with customers. And for those that still do contact their suppliers, that contact may well shift from the expensive sort of phone lines and call centres through to cheaper digital channels. So there's a lower cost to serve as a first sort of point. The second point is higher retention. Happy customers equals more likelihood to stay. And we can also, through the data, actually identify and act on potential churn triggers. So proactively, contact them and get them engaged again. Thirdly, there's greater upsell and cross-sell potential. Going through this circle, more engaged customers, they've built more deeper relationships, they're more trusting of our energy suppliers. That means you've got greater cross-sell and upsell potential. And also, although there's no evidence yet to show this, we think it's a logical conclusion that actually it can have an impact on acquisition as well. While price is still likely to be the biggest criteria to select your energy supplier, we might find as energy insight tools become more commonplace and people are using them more and people are actually getting value from them, that might then be a decision in a criteria in a decision to change supplier. So yes, I might go for a cheap supplier, but one that has a good insight tool, for instance, energy insight tool. And then finally, we're seeing a revenue stream as a potential for these energy insight tools. There are different models out there and different energy suppliers are experimenting. For a lot of people, it's about free to the consumer, so it's a value add product for them. But there are other models out there as well, whether it's tied in with a tariff, such as EDF France, tied in with a bundle, or establishes a one-off cost. Vattenfall have looked at in Sweden, or as a subscription model in its own right, that Engie in France have looked at. So different ways of actually extracting value and direct revenue from these tools as well as possibilities, although I should say numbers are very, very small at this stage. So I'd like, if I can, just to bring in Taco again, if I may, actually, and just from your experience at Eneco and QB, and just understanding of the market as well, particularly in light of the poll as well. How do you think sort of success of energy insight tools should be measured? Should it have more of a customer lens? Should it have more of a commercial lens? Is there a balance between the two?
Well, it's a good question. Obviously, what you saw in the poll was that a lot of people in this webinar think that the actual usage by end users of energy insight tools will be actually very low. I think that's a very good representation of the challenge that you have with energy insights tools, because energy in itself is not something that people want to be bothered with 24 hours a day. It is something that we as professionals are very, very interested in. But I think from an end user perspective, it's about how to make energy more meaningful and relevant in their homes. And I would have to answer your question with that is about customer relationship. Right? You have to dive into the world of the end user, understand how he uses energy, what his problems are in the home, and then make sure that you as a utility solve those problems better than other companies in the market. And the first KPI or I would use is that the NPS or the customer relationship as a metric, and then follow up with the earnings.
Great. All right. Thank you for that insight, Taco. That's very useful to hear. That sort of moves us on then in terms of that's the sort of the current situation. How do we improve the insights propositions currently in the market? And I think for the most part, they've been developed by product teams, by innovation teams, and because of this, I think have been very much designed from a functionality first perspective. What can we do with this data to enhance the customer experience? Whereas I think we're advocating here a slight change of focus to actually have a customer first approach. So what does a customer actually want and need from these tools? And then how can we supply that using the data, the algorithms, the interface to actually match that? So we found sort of 6 key areas here that customers are particularly keen to there's a kind of almost prerequisites really for customer engagement. One is around data accuracy, and this is obviously vital for informed decision making and trust. Links to the billing question we had earlier. If the insight tools are completely linked and tied into the billing element. And the data accuracy is even more important with sort of higher data granularity. And specific use cases that are needed. Second point is clarity. Customers need to be clear in terms of where their spend actually goes, so clarity of message, but also sort of clarity of design in terms of the actual interface and the data visualization of this. The third point is around flexibility. Currently, the functionality is quite rigid. You can compare one month to another or one day to another, but it's not actually necessarily what the customer wants. It's predetermined for them. So allowing the customer greater access to interrogate that data is a step forward for them. And slightly tied in with that is personalization. Generic energy efficiency tips, for instance, will lose value very quickly and can actually irritate customers. So personalized advice is really key, and getting that right and having, again, linking to the data, what do we know about them, who's in the household, and all the rest will help enormously. Fifthly, the effortless area. For customers, these things should be fast, intuitive, and easy to use because energy isn't top of their mind all the time. So everything needs to be really, really easy in that aspect. Different devices have different benefits. So even a combination of devices could actually be considered here. And then the actionability of all this. It's absolutely paramount that customers have the ability to act on the insight, whether a choice of direct or delegated control to sort of home management is important. And if you can get all this right, that starts to shift the relationship from a mere commodity and utility with sort of negative perceptions in terms of the communication that's done to much more of a cost-saving enabler, a trusted advisor to the consumer. So that sort of thing is becoming increasingly important. Now, subscribers have access to a range of consumer use cases to sort of bring this to life. We don't have time to go through any of them today, but really just to give you a flavour, to be successful and make customers' lives easier, these propositions really must resonate strongly with a range of different types of customer groups and be habit forming or have an enduring benefit. And we found that to be particularly key. So if I may, I'd like to just bring Taco on here again for a quick question around the product functionality with a product of Toon. What did you find customers found most useful, most appealing? It'd be great to hear your thoughts briefly on that, Taco, if you can.
Yes, thank you. I think there are let's illustrate two cases. The first case is of the existing town product that displays energy information. The key function that I think everybody in the market will also recognize that people are really interested in is the current electricity consumption. Just by the basics, that it's a graph that moves. If you plug in or plug out an appliance, you see that it moves, and it really brings the data into the daily lives that consumers are in. So it's very simple. It's not complex, but it's something that people really appreciate because it makes that transition from data to the world that they can understand, turning stuff on and off. If you look at what is required to move into advanced energy insights and features, one of the problems that we've been focusing, like I said, is can we develop a solution to tell people if they are wasting energy in their home? Why waste? Because people associate energy saving with compromising on their comfort levels. So people want to save energy, but not at the expense of their comfort levels and how they live. So we developed functionality to detect waste, because waste is something that doesn't compromise your comfort levels. It's just unnecessary. And one of the key requirements, like you said, it needs to be personalized, it needs to be actionable. So one example of the feature that we've prototyped and we got really positive feedback on last year was that we can detect if the comfort mode of your dishwasher or your boiler is on. So do you run your dishes on a comfort program that takes more energy, or do you use the eco mode in your dishwashing? Or do you have the comfort mode on your boiler, that when you turn on the hot tap water, that you get instant hot tap water? So we were able to detect those use cases on an individual level and then give that insight to the end user. So the end user could decide whether he liked the comfort more than the energy costs. And those insights were really something that people didn't know before. It was surprising, it was new to them, it was new information, and it gave them control, and it was also actionable. They could turn on or turn off the button on that specific appliance. So they had a choice, and that was what people really valued, and then we got their interest and their appreciation.
Okay, great, thank you for that, Taco. And then the one area we wanted to talk through really is some of the barriers that energy suppliers have raised, thinking about going into investing into the energy insights market. Found three sort of main ones. One is around strategic priorities. This obviously will always be a challenge with leadership teams needing to balance strategic imperatives going forward with perhaps more short-term performance targets. But as smart meter rollout programs gather pace around Europe, I think the payback time is going to shorten, so we'd have greater value there. The second point is around access to smart data, and the chart on the right-hand side shows the relationship between households with insight tools and the smart meter penetration, really to highlight the fact that you don't need smart meter data to be able to have good quality sort of insight tools and customer engagement on the back of that. Obviously, it's a nice input and very valuable, but smart thermostats, smart plugs, clamps, optical sensors are ways around that. So you can still get a foothold in a market and get ahead of competition rather than relying on a mature smart meter market. And then the final point here is actually about sort of internal capability for data analytics. Should people invest in their own teams? Should they outsource? And that's actually going to be the subject of our next report. So look out for that in the coming weeks.
Great, thanks, David. And following up on this, we have another quick poll, actually two back-to-back polls. What do you think, guys, are energy suppliers? Are they better equipped to do this internally, or should they go externally, or you prefer not to say. Let me launch the poll. And I will give you 10 seconds to answer this question, but basically it's to try to understand whether energy suppliers like Eneco and Cubip do that on their own, or if you go through a partner, that can be either another energy company that's more advanced, or a technology company, or actually you're better off not doing it. And actually very, very interesting results so far. Around 72% of you have said that it's better to outsource. So as Taco explained before, merging the capabilities of an energy supplier with a specialist energy insight provider is actually key to make this happen the right way. It doesn't mean you cannot do it on your own, but obviously it's easier, faster, and better quality if you can do it outsourced. At least that's what people think. And following up with this, another poll coming up, in which of the topics you think are interesting. So we are always interested in your views, guys, on what you think will be the next key questions of this space of the energy insights, the data space. And we'll be really interested to hear about actually what you would like to hear about from us, so that we can maybe decide on what is our next report in this service. I will give you another 4 or 5 seconds to give your answer. But so far it seems very clear that energy data monetization is the hot topic, and the two other topics proposed here are equally interesting, but not as much as the data monetization, as we can see on the results here. So that's good input for us, and we will think about this topic in the future. We have already started to work on this actually in the last few months, and we are thinking about the right way to bring this in a report. Now, in terms of the report itself, so let me go back to the next slide. So this is basically a summary of the table of contents of the study we just discussed today, where we looked at energy insights for customer engagement. What you can see at the bottom of the table of contents is the list of companies we actually discussed with. We reviewed them, we profiled what propositions they have. Some have one app, some have 3 plus propositions. So we kind of benchmarked what everyone is doing, the functionalities, the technology used, etc. As you can see on the right-hand side, these are example slides that are available to see from that report. One thing to mention as well, we have allocated a date for our Digital Energy Summit, which was last year in Berlin, and this year it will be in Edinburgh, here in the UK, so where we are based. So we will be able to show you our hometown if you guys are coming. I think the registrations will start very shortly, but it's probably a date to put in your calendar if you are interested in joining this event. And we also have a similar summit around the heat market in Europe, and this will be in Berlin in June. So now, just on time, 45 minutes. Just leave me to thank you, Taco, for taking the time to come to this webinar and answer all the questions.
You're welcome.
And if you have any more questions for Taco, for David, or for myself, as I said, happy for you to reach out to us. We might reach out to you as well. We will be going to the Utility Week next week in Amsterdam, so we'll be very happy to take a meeting and pay you a coffee to have a chat with you. And as I said before, this has been recorded, so we will put the webinar on YouTube. If you want to share it with colleagues, feel free to do that. If you want the slides, we can send that to you by email if you want. And yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone, for your attention, for your time. We always appreciate this, and speak to you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.